Welcome to Salcedo Paranormal. It is Wednesday, February 22nd, 2023, and today I am covering paranormal news. As always, you can find all the episodes of the show, along with links to social media and other ways to contact me at the podcast page, and that is salcedoparanormal.podbean.com. That's SALSIDO paranormal.podbean.com. Always happy to hear from you all, whether you have comments or questions or topic suggestions or stories of paranormal experiences, whether they're your own or from others that you trust. Happy to either read those or have you join me on the show to talk about them. And so let's see here. Tomorrow, I'm actually very excited for tomorrow's show. It's going to be the wrap up of the H.P. Lovecraft series of shows. So that'll be good. And of course, after tomorrow, Wednesday night, Thursday morning, basically, there will be 2 days off. So I'm going back to 5 days a week, and so yeah, looking forward to tomorrow's show for sure. And then I'll be back on Saturday night, Sunday morning. Yeah, definitely a journey. I forget how many parts now. It was like 16 parts, something like that, to get all the stories from that complete fiction summarized. So it took a long time, but yeah. So that's the plan for tomorrow. But of course, for today, I have already included the stories I will talk about in the chat channel here. And of course, I will include them in the episode description. And then whatever stories I don't get to today will be saved for the next news show. So no one has to worry there. I will cover them all. That's just a matter of time. Try to do a set amount of time per show now for the shorter shows, and so just for future use for other possibilities. So yeah, I think with that, I can get into the stories here. These first two are sort of follow-ups to the recent series of events that I talked about in another news show regarding the whole UAP UFOs across the U.S. and then just the resulting conversations really around the world along those lines. So this first article I have here, and I think this might be a first time I've ever actually used such a mainstream news source here. This is from NBCnews.com. And the title is, once I can find it, there we go. It says, UFOs have finally gone mainstream. The UFO community isn't thrilled. And so this is, I'm not going to read a lot of this, hardly any of this really, but it is a good collection of statements from various people, especially I think a lot of people that are on Twitter, like UFO Twitter, UAP Twitter, along with a couple other people, regarding this recent string of sightings and then objects that were shot down. And then just the public perception of those events and of UFOs, UAP in general. And it talks about how sort of the basically about narratives. It mentions that word in the article. And I think it's important to point that out, is that there are so many people within, whether it's government or even people that are interested in the paranormal, that still have some kind of a narrative or a belief system that they believe that things are one way or another. And this article sort of goes over some of that and the views of some of those people that have been involved in this whole field now for many years. So again, I don't really want to misquote anyone, so I'm not going to do that in this article here. But it talks about how the discussion is it's sort of changed or split in that there are people that are thinking of these objects in terms of them just being man-made objects from various countries, which is I think is important as well. But also this idea that they are not, that they are somehow alien, and how there are people that sort of want things to be one way or the other, in terms of either they want the objects to be man-made or they want them to be alien. And I think to me, I sort of try to stay away from that sort of wanting things to be a certain way, because I think it's important to just try to figure things out regardless of how we would prefer them to be. And that's not even necessarily a dig on the article, and because they're not even really taking one side or another, they're talking about the different sides. Yes, paternology, yeah. But to a meme here that actually a image that Derek shared in the chat here. It's I believe it's that classic poster image. I want to believe, and in a way, I'm sort of, I think at this point in time I'm past that, to where I do think there is weird stuff going on there. I've seen strange things. I've seen a light in the sky that I got a sense of a presence from it. So I do think that the paranormal is real, but I don't expect everybody else to believe that or to think that way. So it just I know I haven't really gone over much of the article directly, but that's just because it was more to just bring up a point regarding all of this. So, and actually the next article also sort of fits into this discussion here. So, yeah, let me see here. I'll get to this next one here. But also this NBC News article, if you want to read it, it does have some of the viewpoints of some of the prominent figures in the sort of the UAP world. Not all of them, but it does have some of their thoughts on everything. So it is a good article. So I definitely recommend reading it all when you can. So, because there were some things in there that I had heard parts of or seen parts of on Twitter, but not all of. And so it's a good. I think it does a good job at bringing some of those points from different people together, that maybe people that might not necessarily always get to talk with each other in a public format. So I do recommend the article. I think it's a good article that just goes over it's a good overview of the current state of thought on the subject. So, and that also brings me to this next article here. This is from, let me see here, uwfvoyager.com. And this one, the title is, Why Has Everyone Started Seeing UFOs? And this is talking about sort of this paradox where it says that in the title, and yet the main point of the article is that this is not a new thing. The part that is new is the fact that it's being mentioned and talked about in the news, but only in a certain way. In relation to these five to these series of items that were seen, objects that were seen in the sky and then shot down, and it does sort of end with a. I like this last sentence or so in this article. I am going to read this. Let's see. I'll just read this last paragraph. It says, still, there are currently 5 known Chinese balloon flights into U.S. territory, with the number expected to grow larger by the year's end. And it says there's nothing wrong with being too careful, but let's be real, it's not worth losing your head over. And I sort of agree with that last part in particular, is that, you know, we need to watch everything that goes on, but also try not to, for one thing, buy into everything that we hear in the various any source really. Just try not to buy into it automatically just because it's a source that we think is trusted. I think it's always good when you can to look into as many sources as you can for any one topic. So that's a short article there, so I'll leave it at that. And that's sort of my thoughts on sort of the aftermath or the current stage of the discussion. Yeah, and let's see here. Looking at the chat here, Derek says, "I love the idea that more news stories about UFOs will cause more UFO sightings. The consciousness aspect to the phenomenon." Yeah, and I do agree with that. I think that is probably, if nothing else, that is probably a good side effect or outcome from all of this, regardless of whatever. Again, going back to narratives, or government and military plans or maneuvers or whatever. Regardless of all of that, maybe that is one good thing that will come from all of that. And Matt Towell in the chat says, "Notice they are calling it UFO again. UAP didn't stick. I told you so." It does seem like that, and there's some discussion I've been hearing about that. In terms of there's this idea I've heard that the government is trying to write off the alien narrative or the alien idea by calling these objects UFOs that turn out to be just man-made objects. And I wouldn't be surprised if that's what at least some people in some positions in government or military are trying to do. So yeah, it's been interesting. It's been an interesting couple of weeks for sure. So, but that's all I have on that topic. The rest of the articles for today will be more of the ghosts and hauntings variety here. And also, I always love to hear from you all what you think regarding these things. So, feel free to leave, as some of you already have been, leave your comments in the chat here, and or to email me if you ever want to, with either true paranormal stories of your own or from people that you trust, like I always say in the beginning of the show, or just thoughts on possibilities as to just anything that we talk about in the show. I'm always open to talking with people in that way, through email or through Discord. You can send me a direct message on there. If you're on there, I definitely recommend being on Discord, since that's where I do the live shows. So let's see if I can get through at least two of these articles here. I may save the last two for next time. Sort of went longer on the UFO stuff than I thought I would, but that's okay. That just means, like I said, I'll have stuff already put aside for the next news show. So let's see here. This next one is from walesonline.co.uk, and it says 1 in 5 think we share homes. I'm guessing they mean homes. It says home with ghosts. Ghosts. They don't use S's in this title, apparently. As study shows most haunted cities. At least parts of it they didn't. Anyway, typos happen. And they mention the study, but they don't really give information as to what the study is or where it's from. At least not in the title. So now this is also a bit of promotion for our TV show, which is apparently they're talking about a show on Netflix, and I've seen the ads for it, Lockwood & Co. And it says research has been commissioned to better understand Britain's relationship with the paranormal, and found that 1 in 5 people claim to share their home with a ghost. So, let's see here. Has some other things here in this article, some other statistics, sort of. And so I'm wondering if maybe Netflix sort of partnered up with some researchers to do this study. That's possible. It says 1 in 2 say it's a friendly presence, but a fifth are convinced it's malevolent and is out to do them harm. And of course, there's always that possibility, but I don't think it's nearly as common as TV shows and movies would have us think, as I always say. It says 1 in 10 Brits, they call them in the article here, are convinced there is a haunted house or building in their local area. And I sort of agree with that. I think that there are a lot of places with paranormal activity all around us. We just don't always know about them. So, it says 1 in 6 have sensed the presence of a ghost, with a 10th feeling a chill when they enter a room. It says 1 in 10 have seen a spirit at the end of their bed. More than 1 in 20 believe they have been comforted by a ghost. It says 5% say they've been touched by one, and then they reference the TV show again. It says 5% of the people surveyed have seen the spirit of someone they knew when they were alive, so basically someone that had passed. It says 4% have spoken to a ghost, and 3% claim to have been given an important message by one. So, talks about the Netflix series, and it has this list of some of the most haunted cities in the UK, and I'll just go over the top few here. Of course, we have London, which makes sense; it's a huge city. Glasgow, Liverpool. That's an I find that one to be intriguing because there's stories in that area of time anomalies as well. Birmingham, Belfast, Nottingham, Cardiff. So, and then there's a lot more cities here on this list. So, neat article. You can check it out for the rest there. I sort of did read a lot of it, but there's still a lot of cities listed in there. And for you to check out. So, I think that's where that article will end. Let me check on the chat again. Let's see here. I'm looking at the chat. Derek says the metaphorical veil seems to be thinning. More UFO sightings, more people believing in ghosts. Yeah. And you do hear about that, and I don't remember hearing about that in articles as much as we used to. Maybe I just haven't, because I didn't used to look, but that seems to be pretty common now. Matt Sall says, I think it might be the land is haunted more than the house, definitely. Especially in Britain, I think yes. I think the land is the source. The buildings are secondary, unless there's some kind of event tied to the building. But either way, it's still sitting on the land. And yeah, Derek has a good point. That's a lot of haunted cities in such a small place. That's true. I don't know all the numbers, but I know that that the UK, or that Britain anyway, is the size of like 1 or 2 states in the US. I think I heard something like that. It's not huge. Which I didn't know until a few years ago. Again, I'm terrible with geography, so there's a lot in that category I do not know. So let's see here. I think I'll go through this one last. I'll do this one other article here, and then I'll save the last 2 for next time, the next news show. This one says, this is from YorkshirePost.co.uk, and again, another one from the UK. Says Ghosts of Britain, Rotherham. It says a look inside one of Yorkshire's most haunted museums, which receives so many donated objects that it is opening another site. So this is and I'm what is amazing to me is I do not know if this is talking about the same museum I shared an article about a while back, or if this is a different one. But either way, apparently Ghosts of Britain is a Facebook page dedicated to the paranormal, and this museum has so many objects that they need a second location, and they're all said to be haunted. It's amazing that there's that many, that they get that many, and I wonder how many of them actually have energy attached to them and how many don't. I would love to visit that place someday. So it talks a little bit about the just the museum having to expand and everything, and just the writer of the article meeting the owners. Apparently, it says that the owners, the husband and wife team, doesn't even believe in the paranormal, and yet they don't stay in the museum overnight, which I sort of find ironic. I wonder about that. If he doesn't believe in something, even if he doesn't want to call it paranormal. Not that I'm putting him down in any way, but still, just an amazing, neat little article there about what it must be like to have a paranormal museum, and have it expanding, because people are literally sending them objects that I guess they don't want, and then they get put into the museum, and now it's expanding. So, let's see here. Derek says, yeah, that's like if every city in New York was haunted, something's up, right? And then he says, I've heard theories that there's titans literally buried under the British Isles too. Maybe that adds to the phenomena, maybe. Yeah, I don't know. But, so that's a neat article there. I definitely recommend checking that one out as well, for more details. And, funny how that worked out. Just a couple of articles from the UK. So, again, I'll save these last two articles I have set aside here for the next news show. And, we'll go from there with those. And, but yeah, that's, no worries, Derek. Yeah, so hopefully you all like those UFO stories. I don't like to focus on the sort of the official positions on things, but I think it's important from time to time. So thank you all for listening, and I will be back tomorrow to cover the patterns and just the different aspects of H.P. Lovecraft's writing. So I will talk to you all tomorrow on the next episode of Salcedo Paranormal. Take care, everyone.